All right, good evening, everybody. So tonight we're going to go over a question that I've been asked a little bit. Have the replacement inverters resolved the issues that I've been having? Well, let's dig in and find out. So to be honest, I've kind of forgotten what all the issues were that I've been experiencing with these inverters. To take a step backwards, for those of you that don't know, December-ish, I got an email from Signature Solar saying that they wanted to RMA my inverters because of some of the issues that I was having. Now, I didn't request this RMA, but I had long-standing questions and tickets open with them, and they initiated this request. And so sometime in January, we got the new inverters. We got them mounted on the wall. We redid the cabling and the PV and all that stuff around that same time. And so I actually need to go back through my old videos and see, all right, what issues was I having? And have the new inverters fixed or resolved any of those issues? So let's jump on over to the computer where we can dive into a playlist that I created with just some of the odd observations and problems that I have had with my 6500 inverters. All right, so like I said, I did create a playlist of just some of the oddities and the observations that I made with the 6500s. So if we come over here to EG4 6500, oddities, issues, and observations. I don't want to look at just one. I want to look at them all. So we'll just kind of go through the videos in the list, and I'll try and explain or show you, if I can, whether or not those issues are fixed. So the first video, and these are just kind of ordered by release date, and the first and the third, fourth, and fifth, nope. The first, third, fourth, and sixth videos are all kind of related together. The issue is based around when you're in grid bypass mode, which you can see here in this image. We're in bypass here. The grid bypass seemed to disconnect and switch back to battery mode, and then it would switch again back to bypass mode. And that's basically the gist of the issue. It seemed in my specific scenario to revolve around having one of my PV strings connected, one of my newer PV strings connected, and my fix, which I talk about in this possible workaround video, was I actually disconnected that fourth PV string, and I moved it off to a Victron charge controller, and basically isolating it from the rest of the system. And everything worked perfectly after that, no problems. I didn't have any of these grid disconnect issues. And it was bad. I mean, it was getting to the point to where, it was constantly connecting, disconnecting, connecting, disconnecting. I mean, I'm trying to get work done, and my lights just keep flashing back and forth. So those, 1, 2, 3, 4 videos are all related to the same thing. Just kind of trying to troubleshoot and diagnose and figure out resolution for that issue. And I am happy to say that since I put the new inverters in, I have not had that disconnect problem once. I have reconnected all of my solar PV lines to my 2 inverters, and I have had no issues from that point whatsoever. Let's see, going down to the next issue, this snap, crackle, pop. So this one, afternoon, everybody. Blah, I don't want to listen to myself talk. So when in grid bypass mode again, you'd hear that snap, crackle, pop. Only in bypass, not at any point in time when you're in battery mode. Did I hear that? So in regards to the clicking, I am currently in grid bypass mode right now. It's been a fairly crummy day. We are at almost 6 o'clock at night. So no PV coming in. If there is, it's, you know, a few watts. But right now, there is no clicking. I know I have still heard it. And it might be more prominent now when solar's coming in. But I know in the past, I was hearing it all the time. It seemed like it was happening at night just as much as during the day. It was fairly consistent. But now it does seem like it's very toned down. It's more mild. I might not notice it as much during the daytime because the fans ramping up diminish the clicking. It does seem like it has quieted down. It is not as pronounced as it used to be in the past, so that's a big plus. So I would say the clicking is partially fixed, if it's an issue. It's definitely an oddity, but it might not be an issue, but whatever was changed, it has drastically been reduced. So that's great. Okay, so far we have the grid connection drop seems to be corrected. The snap, crackle, pop seems to drastically be diminished and reduced. This next thing was an oddity. I had one occurrence. I don't do grid charging very much. Only if I know I have a storm coming in and I need to really top off the batteries. Trying to figure out why the voltage wasn't changing and going above 54 volts. And for some reason, this option was being triggered. Option number 27. Float. It was stuck at 54 volts in float when it never even got up to its bulk charging voltage of was 57.6. So that issue, it happened one time. I was grid charging, trying to get the batteries charged up to their full capacity, and it slowed down charging before it got to 54 volts. And it just kind of maintained at 54 volts. And for whatever reason, the units were being triggered by that float voltage and ramping down charging. So they would not exceed that float voltage unless I increase the float voltage. I did end up running that test again, and I ended up doing, it was more of a thermal camera check and making sure I didn't have any hot spots, but I used grid charging to really push some power into the system. And that grid charge worked successfully with no issues. So that one I wouldn't really apply as an issue that the inverter's fixed. I'm just calling that one oddity a fluke. When in grid bypass, there was a... Let me see if I can find it here. So this issue was, when in grid bypass, can the grid supply this power? So you can see here there's a 65 watt draw. So after some discussions, it seems like this power usage here has something to do with some internal components, some DC internal components needing to be powered, which again, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense just from the standpoint of if that's a power requirement, that seems like it's a part of idle consumption, and the idle consumption should be covered by the AC input power. Needless to say, you can actually, there was a video that I put out, 12 days ago or so, with power consumption observations, and it still shows there is still a 65 to 67 watt draw. You can see that right here, right now, because I'm in grid bypass. We still have a 67 watt draw, which again, I still don't like it. This is now the second day that I have been in grid bypass, and so I have had a 67 watt draw over several cloudy, gloomy days with very low solar, which you can see here. Barely enough to cover this 67 watt draw. So by the time the sun comes back out, if it comes out tomorrow, I'm over a kilowatt of wasted power from this phantom draw that a converter draw, whatever you want to call it. This phantom load issue that I noticed, that was not fixed in the latest version that I got of the hardware. And the last thing in the list, because this one and this one are kind of hand in hand, and this power consumption was released after the fact. So this last one was really a flickering or a pulsing problem when the washing machine was running. Any lights on that, really on that phase, seemed to be blinking. So that blinking was before I switched out the light bulb. And let's see here. And here is a faint flicker you really see on the outlying edges over here. A really faint flicker when switching out the light bulbs. So I did a recording of the laundry room after all these new inverters were put in place. So let's take a look at that real quick and see if this issue was fixed. Well, started the wash this morning. I know it's bright outside, so it might not be easy to see, but let's turn on the laundry room light and see if we see a flicker with the laundry machine. Yeah, I'm still seeing it. It's not nearly as bad as it was before I switched the bulb out, but there's still that pulsing going on. And this might be completely different than the flicker that other people are experiencing, because this is in tune with the washing machine motor. But still had to test it because it's something I was experiencing with the old inverters. So this is still going on. Again, not nearly as bad as it used to be before I switched the bulbs out. In fact, let's check the bathroom too. Yeah, the bathroom fan's doing it as well. But again, for all I know, it could just be some fluctuation from the motor of the washing machine and not have anything to do with the actual flickering of what's happening with other LED lights. And I will note that this is also after the new firmware was released that's supposed to fix the flickering as well. It still does that pulsing. All right, well, as you saw, we had, 4 issues that I had reported and recorded. The grid bypass disconnect reconnect issue, the snap crackling and popping when in grid bypass mode. We had the extra draw on the batteries when in grid bypass mode, And the last thing was the flickering lights, the pulsing lights when the washing machine was running. And really, I mean, we could say maybe 1.5 of those issues were taken care of. I haven't seen the grid dropout issue. The snap, crackle, pop seems to be very, very diminished, if it happens at all. But there's still that draw on the battery, and the lights still flicker in the laundry room. And I guess I'm going to add this too, because the most recent firmware update was supposed to fix flickering lights, but it was specific to something related to lights being on when you had a lot of PV coming into your system, and it was causing some kind of a fluctuation, which then caused your lights to really blink, more so than a flicker. I still have random flickering issues with a lot of the different lights in my house. They are not on dimmers themselves. Some of them are dimmable bulbs, but they are not on dimmers. And unfortunately, it's such an annoying issue, but you can't capture it on camera because it's flickering so minimally that you actually stop and you look at it and you're staring at this light and you're like, did I really see that? And then your mind starts playing tricks on you, thinking, oh, there it is, it's flickering again. But it's not just me. I'm not losing the rest of my mind that I've already lost. My wife also says that yes, the lights are flickering. It happens in our bathroom, in our master closet, it happens in the kitchen, it happens in the bedroom. But it is not consistent. And it has nothing to do with PV because the lights are off, or because the sun is down. It's long past any PV production time when we experience these issues on battery mode. But I can't capture it on camera because when you record it, it looks fine. And you really have to strain to see anything. So, is it cheap bulbs? I don't know, but it's still a flickering issue that was not resolved by the latest firmware update. So out of the issues that I've been experiencing, a couple were fixed and a couple weren't. And so I guess we just move on now and see if, because I'm still waiting on answers from questions from Signature Solar, to see if we can resolve some of these other issues that I've been experiencing. So I know that question has been on a lot of people's minds. It's been asked a handful of times, and so I wanted to get something out there and let you guys know, yes, some of the things were fixed, and no, some of the things weren't. So, all right, with that, I'm going to let y'all go. Y'all stay safe, stay warm, and we'll catch up with you later.